Clerk, time 7:01. I'm going to call this council meeting to order. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. A shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor Gardner, Councillor Weiss, any comments, questions? Call the vote. I'm a yes, Emily. Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Gardner, Councillor Gallo. Yes, it's not going in. Yes. Councillor Gallo's a yes. Councillor Gardner. Oh, Councillor Gilliland and Councillor Gardner. They're both a yes. Councillor Gilliland and Councillor Gardner. That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. No committee presentations. We have one delegation. Mr. Steve Fleck, resident, regarding item 8.7.1, active transportation master plan draft report presentation. Mr. Fleck, welcome. You have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Mayor Marcus, members of council, fellow citizens of Aurora in the gallery and zooming in on Zoom. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Steve Fleck, as the mayor mentioned. I've lived in Ward 5 of Aurora for over 20 years. I would like to thank Dave McLaughlin and the team at WSP for their excellent work on the Aurora Active Transportation Master Plan. I would also like to address my potential biases. I sit on the Aurora Active Transportation and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee. Thank you to council for nomination to that role. First, the bad news. In much of suburban Canada, including places like Aurora, we are woefully behind where we could and should be on active transportation and associated and needed infrastructure. Over the past 30 plus years, and decision after decision seems to have been made by planners and governments, assuming that everyone will drive everywhere for everything, further and further and further entrenching car dependency. This has resulted in roads clogged with traffic congestion, and now personal transportation by car is the fastest growing CO2 emissions category in Canada. The numbers of the latter just keep going up and up. Worth noting that roughly 30% of car trips made in Canada are less than 3 kilometers. Car dependency also leads to collectively significantly less physical activity, with the knock-on negative effects it has on physical and mental health. The good news in Aurora is due to several key factors. There is great hope and opportunity with improved active transportation. Aurora is physically not that big of a community in terms of its geographic size. Large percentage of the population live reasonably and physically close to shopping, services, restaurants, schools, and recreational opportunities. Aurora has 2 public transportation corridors passing right through the middle of it. Yonge Street with the York Regional Transportation Viva buses and the GO train, and key transportation hub, the GO station, sitting right in the geographic middle and heart of the town. That's rare in the GTA, to have a huge positive asset built and active transportation feeding into it. In Aurora, there have been past attempts at bike lanes here and there, and some multi-use paths that have been added here and there. but few of these are linked up directly to true utilitarian use. As an example, there currently is no direct and safe way to access the GO train station approaching from the east. There is a multi-use path along Wellington, but it ends at John West Way and Mary Street. You can see the GO train station 400 meters off in the distance, but there is no safe way currently to directly access that by bike. And the walk is a bleak one and a bit unsafe if you are on foot. With GO train station parking kind of at a max capacity, the only way to get more users there with increasing GO service will be increasing the numbers that arrive by other means other than a car. I've traveled extensively throughout North America for work, and it's amazing what some other municipalities have done with active transportation and cycling infrastructure. Worth noting are Tucson, Arizona, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Edmonton, Alberta. In each of these municipalities, some years ago, political leadership made a commitment to, with everything they do and decisions that are made, consider and make plans for active transportation. For example, in Tucson, a bike lane must be put in whenever a road is resurfaced, and all new roads must have a bike lane included when they are built. 30 years on, in Tucson, they have one of the most extensive networks of on-street bike lanes of any city of its size in the US or Canada. I hope that this council will come together, take the lead, and make the same commitment to move forward and implement this Aurora Active Transportation Master Plan. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Fleck. Councillor, I got a motion to receive the delegation. Councillor Gardner, Councillor Weiss, any questions for the delegate? Councillor Weiss.
Thank you. And I agree with you that I really like the master plan and the work that's in it that everybody has done on it. I said so last time. The only thing that I'm still missing, two things, I guess. One is the connections that are needed in the community. And we have a loss of a connection at the northwest corner at St. John's, and we have a motion forward to go to the region to see about getting a crosswalk there, and that should resolve that problem because it'll link the north and the south side. But the other linkage that's missing, of course, is the east-west across the GO tracks. So we only have crossings for cyclists and pedestrians wherever we have traffic and cars. So there's been no real effort to try to mitigate that problem yet. I see it in the plan, but it's proposed, and I think it's proposed for years and years forward. And so what I hope that the Active Transportation Group and Traffic Safety can do is to start putting some meat on those bones so that we can start planning for the connection east and west underneath the GO. And it'll likely take some cooperation amongst the various levels of government, but I think it's something that has to be done very soon. So again, I thank you for that. It gives me an opportunity to say what I had to say about the only couple of deficiencies I see in it right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions to the delegate? Mr. Fleck, thank you very much for coming out this evening. Okay, call the vote. Yes. Councillor Weiss? Yes. Councillor Gilliland? Yes. Councillor Gallo? Yes, because the system's not working too well today. That carries. Council consent agenda. Someone want to move that the consent agenda items 7.1 to 7.8 inclusive be approved? Councillor Gardner, seconder. Councillor Gallo, any comments or questions on the consent agenda? Call the vote. Emily, I'm a yes. Councillor Weiss. Councillor Weiss, a yes. Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gallo is a yes. That carries. Okay, Committee of the Whole. Meeting. This is for all, and any items need to be pulled. Councillor Gilliland, I know you want 8.8.1 because you're going to be adding that second clause. Okay, so I'll pull that one for you. Any others? Got a motion to approve all items under Committee of the Whole minus 8.8.1. Councillor Gardner. Seconder. Councillor Gallo. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Call the vote. Mine's not working. That's why I'm Emily, I'm a yes. Councillor Weiss. Councillor Weiss is a yes. Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gallo is a yes. That carries. 8.8.1. Councillor Gilliland. Do you want to just move as is right now, and then I guess you're going to add it after, but. Okay, seconder. Councillor Gardner, go ahead. I'm sorry, Councillor Gilliland, go ahead.
Thank you. In addition to this motion, I did want to work with staff just on some language on the procurement part. I know it was something that was something we had to work through. So there was some understanding of what that meant because there was no intention of holding up technologies, for instance, on billing and collecting that information so people could pay their fees or sign up for certain programs and such. So if I may, I do want to add a clause that we had worked with staff. And it does suggest that it says, be it further resolved that staff report back to council for direction prior to investing, installing, or integrating technology owned by the town or managed by a third party that is capable of identification of persons through image recognition technology. The whole purpose of that is really to shine a light on facial recognition. I believe that residents have spoken strong and clear that if that technology was to be introduced, that they would want some sort of process in place to allow council to make the decision of whether or not that is technology we'd like to use. I've heard that residents do not want that. And so this is a bit of a protection in place that if there was some sort of technology that we are aware and there's some sort of procurement policy in place that will flag council knowing if that technology existed and if there was any change that we would be aware of that. And hopefully we'll go also in line with the digital charter in line with that, that caveat. So Mr. Mayor, if I may add that clause, that would be great.
Emily, can we get that on the screen and then I'll. Your seconder. Councillor Weiss, thank you. There are no comments or questions on the amendment. I'll call the vote. Okay, call vote. Emily, I'm a yes. That carries. Main motion as amended. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, call the vote. I'm a yes. That carries. Okay, we'll move to 9.1. This is reconsideration as per our procedural bylaw due to the 3-3 tie at our last council meeting. Someone like to move this? Councillor Gallo, seconder. Councillor Gardner. Call the vote. Do you want to speak to why you're bringing it? Just for the reconsideration.
I just so that we're clear what we're doing here. This is before us because it was a tie vote and Councillor Kim was not there. It's unfortunate. Councillor Kim and Councillor Thompson are not here to express their opinions or vote on the matter, especially considering should it pass, they will benefit from it. But that's why it's here again.
Call the vote on the reconsideration. I'm a no. That carries. To the motion. Mover, you'll move it. Seconder, Councillor Garner, still in a second. Councillor Garner, seconder. Any comments or questions? Call the vote. Nope. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I kind of felt that I should probably speak on this, considering last time I was not comfortable in voting on this because of lack of information, and I can't believe we're back here again, but here we are. Again, I am going to regress in the fact that we did vote on this in October and we agreed to fund this correction through the tax stabilization fund, which means no impact on the tax levy. I do believe in equality and fair compensation, and I really don't want to rehash, but unfortunately, some people are seeing this for the very first time. And because of that, you know, I feel the need to at least give a quick briefing so there's no other misinformation. This compensation recommendation came from a citizen committee made up of business and HR professionals, signed off by the CAO and HR professional department. This was over a course of 1 year. A review was overlooked at last term, and since there was many misleading numbers floating around, I'd like to defer only to the base salary numbers presented to the report to council, which started at $37,697 per councillor, where a 60th percentile recommendation of the 19 municipalities would be reflected at 48,991, placing Aurora the second lowest still in the region. Mayor remains as the highest paid of the N6. And here I'm holding a letter from our HR department, which clearly states what our base is for 2024. And I can assure you does not at all match some of the social media and other media outlets that are out there. And I certainly know what my T4 says. But I digress. Councillor Thompson, I wish he was here. Councillor Gallo, Gardner, Weiss, and Kim. You all put in an exceptional amount of work and hours into this and into the town, and I want to thank each and every one of you for that. I want to remind Councillor Kim, I wish he was here because I want to hear his comments, but back when we first discussed this in October last year, you said, and I quote, "It's already at the low end of percentiles, not a huge impact on the cost base. Aurora councillors have been underpaid significantly compared to comparable municipalities in Ontario. It's really about principle and pay equity. Pay gaps are done right away." And I'm glad you really see it that way. I also want to thank many mayors and councillors and residents in the region who have reached out to us personally to share the same sentiment. And I really do appreciate how you've made us feel valued. In my opinion, we were back here not about the compensation, but in my belief, about the process and the strong mayor powers that were utilized. Fact is, this was passed by council and fully funded by rate stabilization with zero impact on the tax levy. I really do feel for staff. I do want to shout out because they were asked for clarification from the ministry, and the ministry simply pushed it back to staff and said, you figure it out. You determine how that legislation should be interpreted, therefore thus being a very gray area. As such, I did seek external legal counsel as recommended by staff, and the question still remains, does strong mayor powers have oversight of the budget only when it relates to affecting the tax levy, or both? Since there was already a funding source that did not affect the levy, that is the question. Also, where was the written exemption? No one saw any, but again, that legislation is extremely unclear. In my opinion, this is an overreach and a process that lurks in the gray area that's not fully understood. I've heard from the residents, and I stand for fairness and equity. But for me, it's not just about me. It's about the next person and the person after that sits in this chair. And I've listened, and I have already listened to the concerns of the residents. And I've said before that I wouldn't engage in any of the compensation benefits. I'll be voting in favor of this process because, as I said, I believe this is an overreach and the process that lurks in the gray area is not fully understood. Strong mayor powers outside of advancing housing priorities is simply undemocratic, strong, and wrong. Instead, I want to put this to bed and focus on the priorities that matter, such as building homes. I voted in favor of 55 vulnerable housing units that our community desperately needs. And I supported high density to get more homes built in our community
It's 5
faster.
minutes, Councillor. It's 5 minutes, Councillor. It's 5 minutes, Councillor. You have a second time to speak if no one else is going to speak. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gallo.
I wasn't going to say much, but I did want to, because anytime someone's asked me about this issue, I wanted to address the main issue that this was brought forward, and or that at least those who are interested have with this, and that is that this should have been done last term and it wasn't, and therefore any increase should be for the next term of council. I'm just going to go through a very quick scenario on how things actually work around here. Had we had struck a committee last term and they came up with a resolution, they shared that with council, and there was an item on an agenda, that item would end up ultimately in a budget of the first term of council, which ends up being January, February, in that time frame. And that term of council would then vote to agree and pass a resolution to increase their salary based on a committee that was struck in a previous term. And my argument has been consistent that that is exactly what we've done here. A committee was struck. You can change the timing of it, and that's fine. But a committee was struck. We took what the committee had recommended, and we moved that forward. It's no different than if we had struck a committee last term. Those recommendations would have found themselves on a budget, and the sitting council would have approved their increase. And it happens every year. Every term it happens. There's no difference here. This concept that we're doing something wrong is preposterous. And I certainly wouldn't be putting this forward this many times and if I thought I was doing something wrong or incorrect or unjustified. So I hope that clarifies to everyone the rationale behind this.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Gallo, for that clarification. And I did also wanted to point out that the Governance Committee in 2017 did recommend in their report to strike a committee in the next term should award system be implemented as the current council compensation was based on the at-large with 8 council members and a mayor. And that was not in the terms of reference for the 2018 Governance Committee that was struck and should have been, because that's what was recommended. So thank you for bringing that up. Where I was going was what I had supported. So I do want to, again, I would like to be able to focus on the things that do matter to the people in Aurora. And, you know, I did support higher density to get more homes built faster in the community. And we understand that that's a need. And I believe getting more shovels in the ground faster, using less bureaucracy and legal costs to the town is also important. I also want to continue focusing on the crime and safety by hosting more of the crime prevention seminars and meeting with inspectors and working with the YRP District 1 Liaison Committee. And I also want to focus on the capital and operating budgets. I am concerned about the nearly $6 million project and the impacts of the 66% increase in operating at $1.2 million, and so should you. Nearly 1% of this year's tax levy increase is a result of 5 new hires for a square that is not even open yet.
Councillor, can I get you to talk to the motion?
Yes, and I'm also concerned about the infrastructure, maintenance, recreational deficits, and so forth. Therefore, I want this to be put to bed so we as council can focus on the bigger picture, housing crime, and hope to God that this last special council meeting we just had doesn't turn into a ridiculous rain tax. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah, before I call the vote, I too tired of seeing this come back. And I think most of the public's tired of seeing this come back. It's the 4th time we've discussed this. It's not because I brought it back. And yeah, let's get some facts out there. As per the numbers provided to me by our staff, total compensation increase would be 42.6%. Salary increase would be 30% increase. What's the point of order, Councillor? Councillor, they are the actual numbers. Ms. Wainwright Van Kessler, are those the numbers that were presented to me by our finance department?
Through to you, Mr. Mayor, those are the numbers I calculated for you in reference to how it would impact the mayor's budget.
Thank you. You can't, just because you don't like the numbers, Councillor, you cannot call a point of order because you don't like the numbers. So can I continue? I didn't interrupt you. Can I continue? The numbers are not misleading. Councillor, I don't find in your point of privilege. You don't have the floor, Councillor. Councillor, I have the floor right now. And I don't recognize your point of order. Okay. All those in favor of the challenge that the numbers are not correct. Really? So we have our treasurer saying the numbers are correct, and we're challenging saying that the numbers are not incorrect, that are not correct. All right, can I continue? Guess I'll have to post the actual numbers for everyone to see. So council can absolutely have approved this for next term. That was the recommendation that was in front of us in October. It was on the recommendation on the agenda. And any councillor last term could have put forward a motion in the last year to look at council compensation, yet no one sitting at this table, excluding Councillor Weiss because he wasn't here, put anything forward. I'm still opposed to this. I've heard from many residents that they oppose this. So I stand by what the majority of the residents feel. And I've also heard from many elected officials across this province that can't believe that such an increase is being put forward at this time. Councillor Garner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do say that it's not council's responsibility to bring the council compensation committee forward. It's staff's job to put together. It's the leadership committee's job to form the agendas. And as Councillor Gilliland said, it was a recommendation when this was done previously that when we went to a ward system, there should be, if we were going to a ward system, there should be the compensation committee formed. So I really, it's not up to me. I believe it's an oversight on the part of the administration. With respect to agreeing with Councillor Gilliland that it was, the numbers weren't correct. the numbers are correct, but the thing that was not said is that if you just look at the salary, I mean, I wasn't going to take Omer's or health or whatever. Councillor Thompson, who voted against the motion, took it. But if we were just talking about salary. So in that way, I felt the numbers were not represented correctly. It was not a criticism of our CFO. Thank you.
Thank you. And as I said, it's 30% salary.
Over 7 years of not having this.
Any other comments, questions? Councillor Gallo, second time.
Thank you. I really didn't want to have a debate on this, but things are said that I think need some clarity. And Mr. Mayor, I hope you're not insinuating that I or anyone else determined what those numbers were. Those numbers were determined by a committee. I didn't make that decision.
I never said that.
I just want to be clear that in case you're insinuating that I, being the person who moved this forward, determined what that is. We simply took what a committee of our peers determined it should be at. And also to be clear, while the report from staff recommendation, the last sentence in the report had said that it should, in their opinion, it should be for the next term of council. That did not come from the committee. A committee never said that. Why staff put that in? Well, that staff member is no longer here, so I don't know why they put that in. But ultimately, it's council's decision to make. And to be clear, we do this all the time. I can't stand this repetition that a sitting council does not vote for their salary increase. It simply is not true. It's done every single year. It's done at the beginning of every single term. Let's put that to rest. I've heard that too many times. It simply is not accurate. And I'm going to confirm with staff. If we had struck a committee through you, Mr. Mayor, at the end of last term, they came up with a recommendation. Council had agreed to put it in the budget through you. Would that sitting council vote for their own increase in their first year's budget?
Mr. CL.
Through Mr. Mayor, I suppose, if the amount was included in the budget, then council would be agreeing to it when they approve the budget. I mean, it is a recommendation of the previous council that actually passes it. And that's what would put it into the budget. So it would have to be removed. But in as much as council every year approves the entire budget, the new council is in fact also approving the increase.
So a
After
sitting
the
council,
previous.
a sitting council in January, February of their first term would approve their own budget. No different than what we're doing right here. No different.
Do you have any other comments or questions? So just, you're right, let's get some facts straight. The recommendation that was in front of council, that the severance provision of council compensation bylaw for the role of mayor be increased from a maximum of 6 to a maximum of 8 months, and that it be extended to councillors at 1 month per year of service to a maximum of 4 months. So, councillor, I agree with you. I'm not insinuating on other aspects, but council did make changes from what was recommended from the committee, because what is in front of us and what was passed in October was 12 months severance for council, not 4 months as was recommended by the committee. So there were changes made by this council. And as far as absolutely, it's always been the beginning of the next term of council. Have other councils in this province done it in term? Absolutely. But in the town of Aurora, never. It's always been for the next term of council. Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. Councillor Kim. I'm a no. You want to just say it? Councillor Kim's a no. That carries. New business. Councillor Kim. Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gardner. Councillor Gilliland. Councillor Weiss.
Yeah, Lexan trip. I've heard a lot of issues around Lexan trip when we had the motion here not to have town funds. I'm just interested if the mayor is in fact going to Leksand, Sweden, and if so, if there's a funding source for that out of the region. I'm just trying to get clarity for people who have asked me questions. So through you, I guess it should be to you because that would be your trip. So can you help me with this?
Sure, Councillor. The trip has been postponed till the fall. Regional members that were going to be joining in on the delegation weren't able to make that time frame work for them, and so we're reworking and looking at a new date in the fall.
Great, thank you. The other item that I have is that I want to thank Ms. McDougall for the work that she has done on the Blue Light campaign for the RCAF 100 year. It's important that we join many other municipalities in this activity. So it's come at the 11th hour or so, but I want to thank her for the work that she did to make that happen for us. So thank you very much, Ms. McDougall.
Bylaws. Someone like to move them? Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gardner. Call the vote. Councillor Kim. Councillor Kim's a yes. I'm a yes. Confirmed bylaw. Councillor Kim, you want to move that? Thank you. Councillor Luis, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Weiss, Councillor Kim, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.